So we proved into, and just as an example, we proved in our original congenital blindness study that the people with treated eyes, the treated eyes objectively by our clinical tests are able to see light better. Subjectively, the patients showed huge improvements in seeing dim lights on our clinical tests in the office. The FDA, however, does not consider that result, even though it's statistically significant, to be clinically meaningful. We need to prove that patients perform better somehow in some activity of daily living. Now, we developed the mobility course to measure ambulatory vision, thinking, well, this should be intuitively obvious. You look at somebody walking through this course, they're ambulating, that's something I do in day-to-day living. If they ambulate better after treatment, that's clinically meaningful. However, they don't accept that yet. We have to prove and we have to correlate this test to something that happens in the outside world. And what they're asking is that we have questionnaires and surveys for patients, and that correlates, those questionnaires about what they're doing in their daily life correlates with the improvements that we're seeing on this test. And then they will say, yes, on that questionnaire, clearly they're improved. They seem to cross the road better, read road signs better, don't fall down stairs. Your test confirms that that's clinically meaningful. Currently, the FDA accepts only one thing as being clinically meaningful. This is grandfathered in because of extensive precedent. That's 3 lines of improvement on an eye chart, which turns out to be a doubling of your visual acuity. They do recognize, however, that acuity is not relevant to, it's only relevant to certain conditions. If we wait to try and see visual, visual improvement in people with choroideremia, we're going to be waiting to a very late stage in the condition. They are encouraging doctors to work with patient groups to develop outcome measures that are relevant to their particular condition. And for chronic conditions, this is particularly important because it may take an extremely long time to see a clinically meaningful result unless we have some sort of surrogate measure to work with. For example, you saw the adaptive optics that Gene presented yesterday. If we can somehow link through surveys or whatever that the number of cone photoreceptor cells that we measure correlates with a function in daily living, and we can then use the adaptive optics machine, which is extremely sensitive, to say, yes, we see preservation or improvement in the number of cells on that test, and therefore we can use that test as a very precise and sensitive measure of improvement in daily living, clinically meaningful result, and we won't have to wait 5 or 10 years for an approval. So it would be a great help if choroideremia patients could help band, organize, and develop a questionnaire that can be used to evaluate their specific abilities and disabilities that we can correlate to these tests in the clinic.